Saya dah mula. Saya dah mula masuk. Tak boleh ni dah mula dipanggil tadi. Ni dah mula ni. Tadi siang tadi, kalau tidak saya beritahu saya.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Thank you so much for being back with us today. We're going to start our afternoon session, but before that, again, let me introduce our moderator for ISO 2021, my colleague, the General Manager of Center of Professional Development, Industrial Project Development Retail Space, Associate Professor, Surveyor Dr. Sarajul Fikri Muhammad. Dengan segala hormatnya, dipersilakan Doktor.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ashraf, the MC for today. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi ta'ala wabarakatuh. Salam sejahtera and good afternoon to everyone. We are now in the afternoon section of the keynote address. We have two prominent figures in Malaysian academics and also from international communities. First, for this afternoon session, we have a young berusaha Emeritus Professor Dato' IR Dr. Muhammad Azra'i bin Qasim. Now, currently, Dato' IR Dr. Muhammad Azra'i is Emeritus Professor at Azman Hashim International Business School, AHIBS UTM. And our fifth speaker, keynote speaker today, we have from international communities, Professor Dr. Ahmad Doko Ibrahim, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Ahmadu Bello University, Nigeria. To begin our afternoon session, I would like to invite Emeritus Professor Dato' IR Dr. Muhammad Azra'i bin Qasim to deliver his keynote entitled Opportunities for Upskilling, Reskilling, and New Skilling in Emerging Technologies. Before that, I would like to briefly introduce about Professor Dr. Azra'i. Emeritus Professor Dato' IR Dr. Muhammad Azra'i Qasim holds a PhD degree in Environmental Engineering from University of Newcastle upon Tyne, United Kingdom. He is a registered professional engineer with the Board of Engineers Malaysia, a fellow of the Institution of Engineers Malaysia, and has over 38 years of academic, administrative, and industrial working experience. The administrative posts that he has held in and over a period of 30 years are as follows. I think I cannot read because a lot of contribution, emeritus professor to UTM. He started as a head Department of Environmental Engineering at Faculty of Civil Engineering UTM in 1992, and various deputy vice chancellor, for example, in 2000, deputy vice chancellor research and innovation in 2012 to 2015, UTM Senate members, UTM board members, and also he has held a number of posts outside UTM, such as first Vice Chancellor of University Technology Marat from 2019 to 2021, Chairman Malaysian Examination Board Majlis Peperiksaan Malaysia 2019-2021, yang di-Pertua Persatuan Badan-Badan Berkandung Malaysia 2019 to 2021. And now, in terms of the industry involvement, he is currently the chairman of Malaysian Logistic Innovation Berhad, chairman of Synergy Tech Consult Senior Berhad, a board member of PICOM International University College, a board member of Uni Technology Senior Berhad, and professor at Azman Hashim International Business School, UTM Kuala Lumpur. He's a regular speaker on the topic of leadership, leading and managing of high performance, leading transformations and turnaround in academic and career development for young academics in course attended by academic staff from UTM and other public universities. He has written 2 books entitled Membina Kerjaya Akademia and Kepimpinan Akademik di Universiti, Asas Menjadi Pentadbir Akademik Efektif, both in Malay language, which serve as a guide for academicians and academic administrators in the career and leadership development. With that, I would like to invite Professor Dr. Muhammad Azrai to deliver his speech. Welcome, Prof.
Thank you very much, Dr. Sarajo, for the kind remarks. And also, I'd like to thank UTM Space for inviting me to deliver this keynote presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good afternoon.
Waalaikumsalam.
I hope everyone can see clearly my presentation, my PowerPoint.
Clear.
Yes, a lot has been said about COVID-19 and its impacts. And since everyone has gone through this, I think we knew what it's like. Allow me to add a few words or give some information in order to start my presentation. COVID-19 has caused a widespread disruption in all aspects of our life. Millions of enterprises face an existential threat. Nearly half of the world's 3.3 billion workforce are at risk of losing their livelihood. And the pandemic has decimated jobs and placed millions of livelihood at risk. And a lot of suffering has been caused by the pandemic. And as you can see here, especially it has impacted all aspects of society, especially education, one of the biggest sectors that it has impacted besides industry. 50% of students still affected by schools closure. This is during the height of the pandemic. And it has pushed an additional 135 million people to poverty. And extreme poverty has gone up for the first time in 20 years due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And school children especially are affected, although in our country now, people have started going physical. School children have gone physical, but a lot are still on online learning. And a bit on the Malaysian scenario, this is 2 days ago. For the first time, it has gone since May this year. The numbers of new cases has gone below 4,000. Yesterday was as well below 4,000, but today it is slightly above 4,000. Yeah, and over 37,000 businesses shut down during the MCO 3.0, and so that's you can extrapolate from there the number of people who have been left unemployed. I think this has been shared just now in the morning by Professor Azlan. Currently, this year, about 729,000. 729,000 without jobs, and out of that is about 2,000 graduates. And over 20,000 students dropped out from March 2020 to July 2021. So, when people are comfortable staying at home, and school children staying at home, and when school starts, then a lot of them have probably found jobs or happy staying at home and do not want to further their studies. So this is going to be having an effect in the future. Yeah. Although we see this as problems now, but probably in the future, or looking back or looking behind this, there might be opportunities later on when they want to upskill or reskill and so on. And the job situation, a lot of people losing jobs have also caused a lot of mental health issues, and some have taken their lives because of the difficulty that they're facing. And also it's causing a toll on the family, yeah, especially when both are out of jobs, and there's not much, there's a lot of pressure to feed the children and so on. And all of us know the impact on higher education. In fact, many universities are still campuses are very quiet. And I recall during the peak of the pandemic, when things are so quiet, even wild animals are, making a tour around campus. And this happened in one of the campus of UITM in Negeri Sembilan, which is very near to a recreational forest. And a black panther comes out to make a quick tour of the campus. So that's how quiet the campuses are. And although there's some students are allowed in, but still overall it's quite quiet. And I wish to highlight the bottom point there. Some universities and colleges will close down, yeah, because of the pandemic. So I don't know, somebody mentioned a figure of 30 private colleges being closed down, but the actual figure is, you have to check with the Ministry of Higher Education. But not all business or organization lose during the COVID pandemic. Professor Michael Wade, this was an article when the pandemic first hit the various countries. He mentioned that there are winners and losers in this pandemic. Yeah. Winners, these are sectors that have found themselves serendipitously on the right side of history. Yeah. These are thriving during the pandemic, and the natural strategy for these companies is to aggressively invest in opportunities for growth. And there are losers. Yeah. And the strategy is, of course, to cut costs. This will involve laying off workers. I think a lot of workers were laid off during the pandemic. De-risk operations and ready-to-return when conditions grow. And there are a sector known here, Professor Wade calls the in-betweeners. These sectors will probably struggle if they continue as is, but if they were to change their business model, then they can thrive, yeah? Or they can find success. So what are this? Who are the winners? E-commerce marketplaces, yeah, Amazon.com. For example, Amazon is adding 100,000 new jobs to manage the extra demand. Yeah. In fact, there's a Chinese e-commerce giant, JD.com, using unmanned vehicles to deliver food and medical supplies in Wuhan. So these are winners. Yeah? And pharmaceuticals are also the winners. In fact, they're suggesting booster after booster shot, to make more and more money in this pandemic. Logistics and delivery companies, video conferencing. We're using Zoom today. Zoom is one of those companies, startup that are doing very well in this pandemic. Entertainment, streaming, and gaming. The losers: airlines, trains, cruiser ships. I think all of us know how many people have been laid down, how many airlines have been closed down. Tourism, in our country, domestic tourism is slightly is picking up. But during the height of the pandemic, we know tourism is badly hit. A lot of hotels closed down. Oil and gas, investment banking, traditional retail, professional sports, entertainment, cinemas. And in between, banking, healthcare, manufacturing, and education. So education is in between. So if they change the business model, then they will thrive. Okay, how to look for opportunities, how to create opportunities. Professor Yoram Wynn, Professor Emeritus Yoram Wynn and Nitin Rakesh gave 10 guidelines on how we can create opportunities during this the global pandemic, as well as the post-pandemic. Change your mental model, they suggested. That means you have to look at ways how you do things. And he gave an example of universities and schools. We've been talking about MOOCs, we've been talking about online, but the pandemic has forced us to adopt this on a wide scale. In fact, some hotels during the pandemic, they did not close down, but they come up with creative initiatives, or creative way of doing business, like coming with staycation packages when the lockdown has been eased. And they also, some of them were seen selling food to the public through stalls which they put up in front of the hotels and so on. To step up your digital transformation and invest in infrastructure. Identify new business opportunities by reassessing your talent strategy. Identify areas of opportunity through idealized design process. Switch from a shareholder focused organization to a stakeholder focused one. Other than focusing on shareholder, now looking at who are their customers, who are they serving, and so on. Speed up, switch to a network orchestrated model. So instead of competing business to business, let's be part of a network, to thrive. Assure your organizational agility, adaptability, and resilience. Reexamine your business model, innovate and adopt adaptive experimentation approach. So this is the time to innovate. I would like to share Margaret Dennis writing on this. This is during the early part of the pandemic. What are opportunities? She gave 5 opportunities for higher education, or she proposed this. One, this is a time to look at, review or revisit your vision statement for your institution. So now with online education is being taken up on a wide scale and so on. So this is a time for us to relook. What sort of institution are we offering to the public? Create year-long academic programs combining the best of in-person online learning. So hybrid learning is now, or blended learning is now going to be the way forward. So semesters may have to, there's going to relook, the need to relook at semesters. Create year-long recruitment programs for both domestic and international students. So now with semesters being adjusted, or a new way of looking at semesters, so there's also a recruitment could also follow this. Create new business models and financing options, and replace competition with collaboration. In the morning, Professor Tan Sri Anwar Ali mentioned about the need for collaboration. In fact, in this country, it was difficult actually to encourage universities within the country to collaborate on academic programs prior to this. But I think with the everybody adopting online education, it is a great possibility. I remember during the pandemic, one professor from UKM, University Kebangsaan, thanked me, sent a message thanking me that at that time I was in UiTM, for allowing her students to take subjects, which are only offered at UiTM, or University Technology Mara. So from there, we can see that a lot of collaboration can happen in the digital and online scene. There are other possibilities, as mentioned by some of the keynote speakers just now. This is the time actually to accelerate digitalization of work processes. You find that a lot of organizations, they're still doing things manually. A lot of our processes are manual, but now is a big push. One thing I'm happy about the COVID-19 is that it has brought online and digitalization forward, and force everyone to adopt this. Implement new ways of internationalization, leveraging on online technologies. I'm happy to mention here that Azman Hashim International Business School is going big on this, global classrooms, offering MBA programs in collaboration with various universities overseas. Flexible pathways for learning, such as micro-credentials, which were mentioned this morning by Azlan. Job creation on campus, this is also an opportunity actually, although this may be short-term, to help on the unemployed graduates situation. New income generation activities on campus. While I was in University Technology Mara, one of our board members suggested for us to go into agrotech initiatives, because there is this realization that food security is going to be an issue, and we have a lot of land. So we started implementing this based on the available land that we have, like planting MD2 pineapples, vegetables, and so on. So there are these other opportunities that we can see that we can do within the campus. Now that is the focus of my talk. In lifelong learning, there are many opportunities, and of course, one of the big opportunities in lifelong learning is the offering hybrid programs, offering academic programs on a hybrid mode. But I'm not going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about a big opportunity on upskilling, reskilling, and reskilling, which have been mentioned just now, but specific to new technologies. As propagating technologies such as AI, virtual reality, and other augmentation techniques become more accessible and readily available, there is a growing pressure for organizations and those leading them to better understand how these new tools can be utilized. Indeed, in industries such as financial services, healthcare, and cybersecurity, it is becoming ever crucial for working professionals to understand the latest tech trends that could affect both their sector and their employment. The World Economic Forum predicts that half of all employees globally need to upskill or reskill by 2025 to embrace new responsibilities, driving automation and new technologies. So it is, instead of looking this as a cost, in fact, it is actually hugely profitable for business to invest in reskilling the employees, making the case for reskilling increasingly difficult for business to ignore. What is reskilling? It involves training employees on an entirely new set of skills to prepare them to take on a different role within the company. This typically occurs when workers' previous tasks or responsibility become irrelevant, often due to advances in technology. So the example given by one author is for marketing people. People who are doing marketing and they're used to the traditional marketing, so they have to be reskilled on using, for example, social media for marketing. So that is one example. Upskilling refers to an employee learning additional skills to be better equipped to do his or her job. Upskilling occurs when workers improve upon existing skills and deepen their abilities and impact within their area of expertise. And what is new skilling? things, reskilling, upskilling has been mentioned before. New skilling actually is all about all types of continuous learning to help build higher demand skills. Yeah, so it's looking at the reskilling, upskilling in a holistic way. Yeah, so that the whole thing is referred to as new skilling. This is simply the new reality. No business will survive for long without reskilling and upskilling initiatives driven by new skilling strategy. Instead of doing upskilling and reskilling on an ad hoc basis, it has to be in a planned way and in a holistic way. So that is what is meant by new skilling. Okay, what are the top 10 emerging technologies? I think all of us know with the what the pandemic has done actually is to bring forward IR 4.0. Yeah? So these are the top 10 emerging technologies. IoT, in fact, people call internet, not Internet of Things, but Internet of Everything, yeah, instead of IoT. Automation, there is artificial intelligence, AR, VR, with 5G technologies, which are going to be rolled out in our country, 3D printing, drones, yeah, biometrics, blockchain, quantum computing. So these are the top 10. In fact, from this Imperial College Business School is promoting 5 technologies that will be a game changer for business. That is AI, IoT, blockchain, cloud, and big data. This is from the fourth industrial revolution, the tipping points, yeah, as mentioned over a timeline. What is meant by tipping points here is that that magic moment, and this is as mentioned by Malcolm Gladwell, that magic moment when an idea or trend or social behavior crosses a threshold, tips and spreads like wildfire. So that is what is meant by tipping points here. And from here, you can see from year to year that there is the tipping points as mentioned on the emerging technologies. Yeah. Driverless cars, for example, in 2026, AI, decision making, 2026, smart cities, 3D printing and consumer products, 2025, and so on. So there's a lot of opportunities actually in this area. And here I'd like to mention MBOT, yeah, Malaysian Board of Technologies. They are going big into developing talent in 24 technology and technical fields, and you can refer to their website some of these technologies. Example is ICT, green technology, cybersecurity technology, nano technology, aerospace, and so on. So some of these are already, some jobs in these emerging technologies are already on the rise in our country. This is from the Star newspaper. You mentioned that top jobs on the rise in Malaysia. So amongst it, which is cybersecurity, digital content, digital marketing, software technology, e-commerce, and so on. And in fact, in the next few years, probably there'll be jobs, advertisements in drone pilot, probably 3D printer technicians, or flying car mechanics, and so on. So I think slowly we will see this new jobs emerging, and companies have to prepare and get ready for the future. Very happy. We are very happy to see that our government has put this upskilling and reskilling initiatives in the 2022 budget. In fact, 2021, this has already taken place, but they are putting 1.1 billion, yeah, for training upskilling programs for next year. So there's a huge opportunity actually for training providers like UTM Space and other training providers from universities or training companies and so on. Yeah. So I'm coming to the last part now. At present, a skills divide is not only emerging but growing. Take data, for example, now considered to be the lifeblood of today's economy. data literacy is essential to success if we are all to benefit from the increasingly data-rich environments that we live and work in. A lot of us mentioned that data is important, data analytics is important, but many organizations are not utilizing the data that they have in order to come up with new strategies, new services, new products, and so on. So a lot of organizations and business are lagging behind on these emerging technologies that have been mentioned or highlighted here. Well, we cannot allow the skills gap to widen. We must also acknowledge the scale of the challenge ahead. There is no quick remedy. Instead, companies, educators, technologists must collaborate and invest in reskilling their workforces. As we enter the fourth industrial revolution, arguably brought faster by COVID-19 pandemic, closing the skills gap should be every leader's priority. Yeah, so I wish to end by saying again that there's a big opportunity in upskilling and reskilling in emerging technologies, and companies, training providers must grab this opportunity in order that we produce the right talents as needed by the country to push ourselves and be prepared to embrace IR 4.0. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Emeritus Professor Dr. Muhammad Azra Ibe Kasim, for sharing your valuable insights and thoughts with us. And I have two take-home messages for all of us today. First, we have the winners and losers, the losers during pandemics. That's why we need to position our business or our strategy towards the winners during the pandemics, post-pandemic, and after the cooling period of the pandemics. And second, there's a good news to all of us. RM, Ringgit Malaysia 1.1 billion for upskilling and reskilling by government. This is the budget for next year, 2022. And as a main players, and we have our smart partner here, we need to work together, collaborate, and to help to assist the government for upskilling and reskilling program in Malaysia. Okay, again, thank you so much, Emeritus Professor Dr. Muhammad Azra Ibe Kasim. Our fifth keynote speaker and last keynote speaker is Professor Dr. Ahmad Doko Ibrahim, Deputy Vice Chancellor, Administration, Nigeria. Professor Dr. Ahmad presentation is entitled Lifelong Learning for Construction Project Managers. Before that, I would like to introduce Professor Dr. Ahmad Ibrahim from Ahmadu Bello University. Professor Dr. Ahmad Doko Ibrahim obtained a Bachelor of Science Honours in Quantity Surveying from Ahmadu Bello University in Nigeria. Master of Science in Construction Engineering and Management from King Fahd University of Petroleum and Minerals, Saudi Arabia, and a PhD in Construction Management from Loughborough University, United Kingdom. He started his professional career with a private practicing quantity surveying firm, notably Quartz Consultants and Ahmadu and Partners. Before taking academic position at ABU, he rose through the rank to the coveted and enviable rank of Professor of Quantity Surveying and Construction Project Management. Professor Ibrahim research interests include cost modeling, continuous improvement of construction processes and products, and construction procurement management. Professionally and outside the four walls of the university, Professor Ibrahim is fellow of the Nigerian Institute of Quantity Surveyors and the Society of Construction Industry Arbitrators. He is registered with the Quantity Surveyors Registration of Nigeria and also affiliated to the Chartered Institute of Building, CIOB UK, Association for Project Management, APM UK, Nigerian Institute of Management, and several others. He has several served on accreditation team of both the National University Commissioning and QSRBN. I would like to welcome Professor Dr. Ahmad to deliver his speech.
Thank you very much, Dr. Saraju. It's a pleasure to be with you. and it's good morning here in Nigeria. I'm sure it's good afternoon in Malaysia. I would like to share my slides so that we'll be together. Just a second.
Prof. Ahmad, share screen, green button. Do you have the green button?
Yes, I do. I do. I'm trying to open the file so that I can share the slides. Just
You
a
need to open
second. Yeah. Okay. Just a second. Okay. I should have the slides up. You have the slides?
Clear, yes, clear.
All right,
And
thank you very much. All right, thank you once again. My talk is going to be on lifelong learning for construction project managers. It's a pleasure once again to be with you. The background of my talk, it's as we have on the screen. I'm sure a lot has been said about lifelong learning already, but I'll try to put things in some context so that my presentation can flow very well. I would also say something very briefly about construction project manager and what I call impetus for change and innovation. Why do construction managers need to learn, and importantly, lifelong learning? And then I'll come back to briefly on the subject matter of lifelong learning. I'll provide just one definition. I'll say something about the concept and theories very, very briefly. And then I'll spend more time talking about the common approaches for lifelong learning with particular reference to construction project manager. Within that aspect of the presentation, I would also share some outcome of a previous research that we have done on lifelong learning with respect to construction project managers, and then I would conclude. So why is learning important? Well, learning is important because there's a lot of joy that we normally experience when we learn. And the first example I would like to cite here is the excitement we all learn in our childhood. When we learn, for example, to first ride a two-legged bicycle, you know, we feel some excitement where no one is holding the bicycle. When we ride three-legged bicycles, there isn't much excitement because it's normal that the bicycle is already very stable. But when we ride the two-legged cycle, for the first time, we feel very excited. We feel, you know, we have made some achievements in life. However, as we move on over time, as we grow older, that excitement will fade away. And that's what happens between the initial formal learning we have in school and when we begin to experience life outside school, you begin to see that the things you are used to knowing is no longer adequate. You need to know a bit more to be able to cope with the emerging challenges that you face at life after school. But if you want to, as an adult, if you want to actually appreciate the beauty of learning from a child, look at the face of a child who first ride a two-legged bicycle for the first time, and you will see the joy and the sense of achievement that the child would be experiencing. From childhood, we're usually taught that knowledge is power, and it's also freedom. It's also a license and gateway to freedom. It is power because it gives us some sense of independence that going forward, we can be on our own. And so in our various practices after school, we begin to have some independence that we can be given assignments that we will carry out all by ourselves. We do not need anyone to support us. And then we gain some freedom because we work at our pace, in our own various locations, with very little interference. And so, on the basis of life, knowledge being power and freedom, it is important that within the subject matter of construction management, this lifelong learning becomes very important. Now, the construction industry itself is very heterogeneous. What this means is that it consists of very different professional groups. You would have project managers, you would have an architect, you would have engineers, you would have quantity surveyors, we have surveyors, we have plenty of different fields working together. These different professionals often have different practices, different norms, different beliefs, different cultures, different professional ethics, but they will all have to come together to achieve certain goal, which is providing a product that meets the needs of the client, both in terms of its quality, in terms of the time that it takes to achieve, in terms of the cost. Now, these complex interactions between different participants makes the industry a very complex one. And in order to overcome this complexity and ensure that this personnel work harmoniously together in order to achieve the set objectives, the need for a project manager, it cannot be overestimated. The project manager has been defined by the British Standard Guide to Project Management as that individual or body with the responsibility for managing a project, which means all the project participants, all the project resources in terms of materials, in terms of labor, in terms of time, in terms of all the other project activities in order to achieve the project objective. Now, the involvement of the project manager to effectively coordinate all these activities has been established as a major criteria for ensuring the successful delivery of projects. Now, according to Peter Brandon, it is important that all professions continually update their knowledge. This is because it strengthens the relevance of that profession and promotes its growth. Any profession that does not constantly update its knowledge cannot survive. So it ensures the survival of the professions from extinction. Otherwise, as there are developments in the society, the industry, the profession will begin to go into extinction because it will not cope with the emerging challenges. It also provides leeway or opportunities for the professionals in each discipline to move quickly into new areas of opportunities that exist. And so this constant updating of knowledge is very, very critical. Other reasons why it's important for professions to be dynamic and to have ability to cope and to be resilient and innovative so that they're able to cope with emerging challenges. The increasing developments in technology, the immediate past keynote speaker talks about emerging technologies. They are large in number. 5G, AI, Internet of Things, data, big data, all these developments. It's extremely important that every discipline makes efforts to have capacity to dynamically, innovatively cope with these emerging changes. Economic uncertainties. The world economy is not stable. There are pressures here and there around the entire world. And so it's important that disciplines have capacity to cope with these economic uncertainties, the effects of globalization, and the need for professions to continuously improve their services to meet the needs, the changing needs of clients, the changes in procurement methods. New procurement methods I imagine every day. The impact of information technology on some traditional functions, things that were done manually in the past now, with changes in information technology, it's extremely important that professions are able to update their knowledge base. The growing competition from other professions, including new professions that I imagine because of this new development that are coming up around the world. Now, it's also important to be able to cope with major pandemics, such as the one we just witnessed, the COVID-19 pandemic that we are all witnesses, and other force majeures. It's important that professions are dynamic to be able to cope with the changes, the newer changes of ways of doing things, ways of sharing information, the building information modeling. All these are extremely important that different professions have capacity to cope with. Now, it is important that these constant changing roles, because of different roles, the changing roles of the different stakeholders in industry, it's important so that the professionals in the industry will be able to cope with all the competitions that take place within the construction labor market. In order to address this issue, the concept of lifelong learning, ability to learn from cradle, from childhood, from formal education through to cradle, which means to old age, or to practice after graduation, official formal education is brought into the sector so that there will be continuous supply of updated knowledge and skills to cope with the emerging challenges that are happening. Alan Ashworth and Hogg, in their book, Cost Studies of Buildings, argue that graduates who have a good technical understanding, a broader use of business skills, and a commitment towards lifelong learning will be in high demand in the future. And so for any graduate who wishes to be in high demand by clients and by different employers, it's important that we combine our technical and business skills with commitment to lifelong learning. Now, what is lifelong learning? Like I said, I will not be providing many definitions because I'm aware many definitions have been provided by the earlier speakers. Lifelong learning is an emerging concept of acquiring new skills throughout the life of an employee. Nearly a third of the skills obtained by the graduates become obsolete 7 years after graduation. This is an outcome of a previous research. The main cause is that even the curriculum with which the candidate has been taught will have become obsolete because of the changing cycle of new innovations and challenges within the industry. Another study also said the qualification obsolescence sets in after 5 years. This results in the inability of the holder of that qualification to compete favorably in the professional labor market. Any graduate that holds a qualification that is 5 years old and has not undergone new training will be, this qualification that was acquired earlier will have become obsolete and will require further training to be able to cope with the changes that will have occurred in the professional labor market. Now, there are various approaches for lifelong learning, particularly within the built environment. Broadly speaking, there are essentially two interwoven approaches that are typically adopted within the built environment. The first approach, which I'll talk a bit more extensively about in the next slide, is aggressive research and development, commonly referred to the R&D. The second approach is through continuing professional development organized by the various professional groups to take care of the specific changes that have occurred in their professional disciplines. Now, for the research and development approach, in order for construction project management to cope with advances, it is important to be able to have ability to respond to the changes or adjustments in the international construction business environment because of the effects of globalization. It's also important to promote research and development activities in all aspects of project cycle and environment required to support the changing and developing role of construction project management in the wider context of service delivery, including the impact of information technology on services. Now, this research and development is undertaken either directly by the industry, the various construction firms or professional firms, or a combination or a collaboration between the academic institutions and the industry, and including government regulatory organizations. They shape the industry. I'm sure we are all familiar with the Latham and the John Egan reports from the United Kingdom, which took an overall holistic view of the construction industry from the supply side and the demand side and from the government side, so that robustly all the parties work together in order to meet the increasing and changing needs of the industry. The second approach, which I'll talk more extensively about, is the continuing professional development approach that is used as a vehicle for lifelong learning for construction project management. The Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors defines or describes continuing professional development as follows: that it is continuing because learning never ceases, regardless of age or seniority. Even if he's a young professional, he may need to know the things that the older professionals already know. And for the older professionals, they also need to keep in touch to be able to meet up with the requirements of the newer knowledge that is available in the industry that was not available at the time they had their formal education. It is professional because it is focused on professional competence, on professional roles. And it is development because it is personal performance and enhanced career progression, which arguably is much wider than formal training that we undertake in schools. Applying construction, continuing professional development can simply be defined as the way in which professionals keep themselves up to date and maintain their standards as professionals in the practice of the work they do, from the beginning of their professional practice till the end of their career. The Royal Institute of Chartered Surveyors also define continuing professional development as a commitment by members to continually update their skills and knowledge in order to remain professionally competent and relevant. An important attribute of the CPD program is that they have the ability to be purpose-made, tailored to suit this individual situation. You can do skills audit of an individual and you go for the program that best suits your needs. It is not collective, unlike formal training where everyone sits in the same class and the same material is delivered to all of them for professional development. For CPD, people in the same organizations may have different skills need. And so you go for the training that best suits your peculiar situation. Many professional groups already have adopted this approach for lifelong training for their members. They use them both before you become qualified to join the corporate membership cadre, and you also need them during to renew your registration with the professional bodies during your practice life. So this is already formalized by many professional associations. Now, I would like to share with you 2 slides where we made an attempt to inquire from professionals in the industry what the different continuous professional development approaches that are available for the industry are important for professional project managers in the industry, and whether or not as individuals, professionals, they have met or they can show evidence that they do meet those requirements. And the long list of the various continuous professional development approaches that are available for the construction project managers are listed on the screen. The first one, which is the one with the highest weighted mean, is the seminars. Today, the seminars used to be, when people identify skills gap, and then they identify which seminars have been provided specifically to meet those specific skills gap that individuals are encountering in their professional practice. For example, you could have an individual who wants to brush up his skills. For example, something as basic as artificial intelligence or some tools, BIM tools that you could use. You identify specific challenge and you identify specific seminar, which can be developed, which can be delivered both in person, physical, face-to-face, or via distance learning seminars or webinars these days. We also organize conferences which are usually general in nature, not very specific. People deliver lectures on various themes that the seminar is about. We also have professional groups having congresses, gathering together to deliver cutting-edge research outputs to their members. And sometimes we also organize workshops or lectures for the various construction managers to be able to cope with the individual needs of various individuals. Now, sometimes you also undertake individual learning such as skills training or short-term study at tertiary institutions. This learning is usually not generic. It is usually guided by individual needs. And so you identify the learning and you undertake the exercise all by yourself through self-study by going into a library or approaching specific professionals in institutions so that you fill those skill gaps. Now, there are tools that are also available for individuals to also use. A typical one is Go Learning. Go Learning is an educational technology tool that involves various games and opportunities for conducting simulations so that real life scenarios are created under using educational technology instrumentations so that the exercise, the aim of the learning is put in a live and enjoyable format so that individuals are able to spend longer times learning under those atmosphere other than learning through books only. People also learn by identifying specific journal databases where you would achieve the nature of skills gaps that you have identified as individuals, and then you look for knowledge that will be able to fill those gaps. Now, you also have people who go for formal tertiary studies, such as postgraduate studies, either on the short term or on the long term. These are also geared towards lifelong learning or reading from publications in peer-reviewed journals or papers presented at accredited conferences or congresses or through poster presentations. It's important, these are all various tools that various construction project managers would be able to use to undertake lifelong learning so that learning that they did not undertake during their formal education in schools, they will be able to keep up to date in their professional life as they proceed. Now, we also have another category of tools that are also used for lifelong learning for construction professional managers. Examples include in-house skills training sessions organized by individual practices. In these instances, different professional organizations could invite specialists or experts from the industry or from academia to provide in-house training for their staff. Sometimes within the organization, you also organize formal small group discussions. One person may have gone for a training and then come back and train the other colleagues in the industry, in the firm, so that together, all of them, through a formal organized system, will be able to continue to provide lifelong learning for colleagues in the organization. We also do professional administration through professional groups, quantity surveyor groups, architect groups, or professional project manager groups. They also could provide certain training for their members. Of course, other methods include self-study, where individuals will either use the conventional book method or using the web technology to undertake some self-study on identify specific areas where people will be able to update their knowledge and skills. Now, other tools include going for undergraduate or postgraduate teaching. Sometimes teaching is another way of learning because a skilled teacher will also learn from his students, particularly if the students are experienced students, maybe from the industry. In the course of interaction, you also have opportunity to learn. Now, other methods for also acquire lifelong learning opportunities include supervision, postgraduate research studies, examinations, evaluations, and assessments, mentoring of registered candidates, in-house training sessions organized by individual practices, organized formal group discussion, professional administration. Okay, these are repeated. These are all methods that you use for providing lifelong training for staff. And so by way of conclusion, it's important that we recognize that the roles and the required skills, competencies of construction project managers have gone astronomical changes over time. It is very important that this industry becomes very dynamic so that these skills, these professions will be able to provide lifelong learning opportunities for their staff so that to be able to survive in the competitive labor market. Otherwise, people could lose their jobs if they are unable to cope with the new demands recall that before the pandemic, we were all used to physical ways of working. But today with the pandemic, people have to work remotely these days. Robots are in use in our construction industry. Collaborative tools such as BIM are being used. People contribute design inputs from various locations around the world. People will have to acquire these dynamic skills, otherwise they will go out of business. It's quite obvious that firms and organizations will have to pay more emphasis on the acquisition of those roles so that the overall business goals will continually to be achieved. Now, it's important that we all take personal responsibility for this learning. Nobody can plan your learning better than yourself. And as a way of advice, rather than focus on your cycle of concerns, the things that you can't control, it's important to start focusing on your cycle of influence. What are those things that are within your control? Your time is within your control. Your resources are within your control. It's important that we start with that and plan how to conquer the things that are outside our cycle of concern. Now, learning is a very personal investment that stays with you throughout your life. Anything you will learn is yours. It's not for your organization. It's personal to you. You can leave that organization and go to another organization using the things you have learned over time. Now, one of the most famous favorite quotations that I have is the one by Vincent van Gogh. He said, if you hear a voice within you say, you can't paint, then by all means paint. And that voice will be silenced. The implication of this wise saying is that if you are your own limitation, if you insist that something cannot be done, then there's no reason why it can be done. But if you make up your mind that something is within your power to do, you take personal challenge and make personal commitments and you go for it, that voice of dissent, that voice of inability, that voice of you can't do will be silenced forever. It's on that note that I thank you very much for listening, and it's a pleasure talking to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ahmad Doko Ibrahim, for sharing your experience, your research findings and insight with us. We come to the end of the keynote afternoon session and for today's session. With that remark from all these distinguished keynote speakers, we have come to the end of the keynote address session. Thanks to everyone for your kind support. And before I end this session, I would like to read one quote from Brian Tracy. He said that continuous learning is the minimum requirement for success in any field. I think I will support. I support the statement by Professor Ahmad Doko Ibrahim. With that, thank you so much. Stay safe and healthy, and take care. Back to the MC for today. Back to Tuan Ashraf.
Thank you so much, Dr. Sarajul. Thank you so much to all speakers. Thank you so much to Professor Dr. Ibrahim. Thank you so much to Professor Emeritus Dr. Senior Dr. Azai Kasim. Next, to officially conclude today's symposium, I would like to invite again the chairman of International Symposium on Lifelong Learning, ISL 2021, Professor Madya Dr. Zakaria Muhammad Yusuf, to deliver the closing speech. PMZ, the Zoom is yours.